In H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, the time traveler journeys to the future to discover that the human race has evolved into two separate species. One, the Eloi, which is peaceful and not too dissimilar in appearance from modern men and women today. The other species are called Morlocks. They live underground and are cannibalistic and more savage in appearance. The time traveler falls in love with an Eloi woman named Weena. They are attacked by Morlocks and become separated. He assumes she is dead, though it is never confirmed in the story. What he does not do in the original novel is simply go back in time and save her. And at the end of H.G. Wells' novel, he disappears somewhere in time and is never heard from again. That leaves his story wide open, as it's never recorded what becomes of him or the woman he loves. So in our story, he decides to go back in time and put together a group of his own monsters to travel back to the future and save the woman he loves and her people from the Morlocks. He begins with Frankenstein's monster. At the end of Mary Shelley's original novel, Frankenstein, the creature weeps over the dead body of his creator. While his creator had just pursued him to the ends of the earth in an attempt to destroy him, he still had compassion and felt sadness in his passing. He tells the only witness to this sad scene that the world no longer needs fear him. He will go north and destroy himself in a funeral pyre. The story ends with him floating away on an iceberg toward the North Pole. It never records his death, however. Our story picks up with him having reached his final destination. He's carrying the mast of an abandoned ship lodged in the ice to add to a pile of wood that will be his funeral pyre. He's interrupted by the time traveler, who offers him the only two things he asked for in Mary Shelley's novel and never received. The creature told his creator that if but one man would see him as benevolent, he would forever end his war on humanity and never harm another living soul. The time traveler tells him that in the future they are friends. The creature had asked his creator to make him a mate, which he promised to do only to destroy her before she was finished, condemning him to a life of loneliness and misery. When the time traveler is unable to turn the creature from his path, he steps into the fire with him, saying he'd rather die with a benevolent friend than live without the woman he loves. This convinces the creature to step out of the fire and into the time machine where he is shown his future. He sees a future where he knows not only friendship but love, and that is what changes his destiny. He joins the time traveler on his mission, and they travel back in time to pick up a living mummy who has just experienced a similar rebirth as the one the creature experienced in his creation. With significant differences, the mummy has the power to reshape matter, among other things. The time traveler explains to the mummy that he is to be his guide in his afterlife, and he will take him to a people that need him to lead them as he led his people as Pharaoh in his former life. He explains that there will be trials along the way, and that this day they gather his army. The three of them then journey to Transylvania, November the 6th, 1893, the day Dracula was killed. At the end of Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula was being transported by gypsies in a crate pursued by his enemies. They raced toward Castle Dracula, attempting to reach it before the sunset, but his enemies overpowered the gypsies before the sunset and pried open Dracula's crate. Jonathan Harker cut off Dracula's head at the same moment that Quincy Morris stabbed him through the heart. Being over 400 years old, Dracula crumbled to dust, and that was his end. So in our story, at the moment the knives are about to enter Count Dracula's body, the time traveler enters the scene and stops time. He offers Dracula a choice: to help him save the woman he loves, and in exchange he will save him from his fate, or he can simply allow things to play out in their intended manner. Dracula obviously chooses the former. The mummy then forms a dust replica of Dracula under the knives of Jonathan Harker and Quincy Morris. When time resumes its course, the knives plunge into the dust-laden form, and they believe they had slain their enemy. Dracula joins the others on their quest, and the timeline is preserved. To the world at large, Dracula has perished, and the events of his death played out exactly as Bram Stoker scripted them in his novel. So we are being very careful to remain as true as possible to the vision of the writers who originally created these amazing characters, and continue their adventures at the same time. That way they can achieve closure to many of the plot threads in their original storylines that they never experienced, and continue on in an entirely new adventure. Our story takes the most unlikely anti-heroes and flings them head-on into a situation where they must rise above their former circumstances to be deemed good creatures. This is their story.